Among the many commitments that you have been able to keep most recently was the reopening of the National Shrine for St. Francis Xavier Cabrini here in Chicago. Our Office for Television and Radio were there. Let's see this report from Jim Dish.
The National Shrine to Mother Cabrini is nestled within a high-end condo building complex at 2520 North Lakeview Avenue. The shrine was built as an addition to Columbus Hospital in 1955, but was closed in 2002 after the hospital shut its doors and was sold to developers. Enter the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, the religious congregation founded by Mother Cabrini. They worked tirelessly for 10 years to preserve and now reopen the shrine as a new ministry.
The shrine of St. Francis Cabrini is really a gift to the people of Chicago, because St. Francis Cabrini died in Chicago, so she is really considered a Chicago saint. And so this is a special place for us, it's a special place for the people of Chicago. And we hope that many of them come and find a haven where they can pray and they can be at peace and they can find answers and they can find peace within themselves.
The reopened shrine includes an outdoor garden, a new museum, and an entranceway and lobby on the ground floor of one of the condo buildings. The refurbished chapel features bold new colors that accent several stained glass windows.
This project has been so gratifying for me, and I think everybody that worked on it, not only in my office, but the contractor and all the consultants. I really enjoyed it. The sisters were absolutely fabulous, and it's been so fulfilling for me that I'd gladly do it all over again.
The architect was among the 450 people who attended the inaugural Mass at the Mother Cabrini Shrine. More than 30 missionary sisters traveled from the East Coast and countries around the world to be part of this long-anticipated occasion. They were celebrating the life of Mother Cabrini, who traveled for nearly 30 years, establishing orphanages, schools, and hospitals in Central and South America, in Western Europe, and here in the United States.
Here in this shrine, a new spiritual ministry, not brand new, but a resurrected, that's what we could call it, a resurrected spiritual ministry to nourish the faith of Chicagoans and others who come as pilgrims to pray and worship, and it resumes today. The essential element of our life must always be centered on a dynamic, personal relationship to Jesus and loving service to others. Without that, there's nothing.
We thank God for giving us Mother Cabrini as a model of missionary discipleship, one who showed us how to love unselfishly, to respond to the needs of the vulnerable among us.
Francis Xavier Cabrini came to the United States with 6 sisters in 1889 to work among Italian immigrants. Chicago became one of her main bases of operation. The small museum at the shrine houses her reconstructed bedroom, including the wicker chair in which she died. A relic of Mother Cabrini, her right upper arm bone, has been reinstalled in the base of the altar. In 1946, Mother Cabrini became the first American citizen to be elevated to sainthood, and she is known as the universal patron saint of immigrants. During his homily at the inaugural Mass, Cardinal Francis George reflected on the goodness of Mother Cabrini.
She was who she was, and she calls us to be whom we should be through her relationship with Jesus. It is that relationship that enabled her and enables us to welcome the good, no matter its source, to recognize evil, no matter the actor or its provenance, and above all, to protect the most vulnerable among us.
The National Shrine to Mother Cabrini stands as a Catholic treasure in Chicago, and thanks to a group of persistent sisters, that treasure can be experienced once again. I'm Jim Dish, reporting for the Church, the Cardinal, and you.
Looks like it was a marvelous celebration.
It was very, very moving for me. I was in grade school when Mother Cabrini was canonized, and we made much of it. The sisters told us who she was, first American citizen. She was an immigrant from Italy, but she lived much of her life here in this country. Did a lot of marvelous works, not only in Chicago where she died, but in New York and in Seattle and in New Orleans. She was constantly on the road. And behind her, there were hospitals and schools, and she died in Columbus Hospital here. Columbus Hospital, however, was taken down, And we had to work very hard. The sisters of her order, the missionary sisters of the Sacred Heart, worked very hard to preserve the chapel and the room where she died. And so it's a shrine now within a much larger building, a condo building, a beautiful building, that reminds us of her and the call to sanctity that's now universally recognized since the Second Vatican Council, and the way in which she was a very determined woman, some said stubborn, took on one of my predecessors, Archbishop Quigley, whoever then saw that this was the hand of God and cooperated with her completely. But that was the story of her life. She was God-driven. And the beauty of the chapel, it has a major relic, a major part of her skeleton is there. And so it will be a place where people will continue to pray to God, a place sanctified by her death. And I was just very privileged to be there, truly. They had many people from around the world there who were part of the Cabrini family, because from Latin America and from Italy and elsewhere, the Cabrini spiritual family. And that's always touching when you see people from around the world gather in a sacred place, whether here or in Rome or in Buenos Aires or anywhere. And you realize again how the true protagonists of the faith are the saints, not bishops and priests and religious women and men or whatever. It's the saints, and there are saints among them, but it's the saints who are the history of salvation made visible, and that perdures, that continues. And here we had someone who died right here in sanctity, united to the Lord, and so you can touch her in a way there that you can't anywhere else. So it was a very moving experience.